there's something that all of us say, but very few of us actually take into consideration. Hashem Melech, Hashem Malach, Hashem Imloch, Leolam Vaed. God is the king now, presently. God was the king, and God will be the king. Now, technically, it doesn't make sense. It should be past, present, future. Hashem Malach, Hashem Melech, Hashem Imloch. But it doesn't say that. It says Hashem Melech, now. Hashem is the king now. And then it says Hashem was the king and Hashem will be the king. Anybody have any idea of why it says so? Why we're present, then past, then future? No?
Because that's all that counts.
That's all that counts, meaning? The now is that counts. Okay. Hashem is beyond time. Okay. No? What about you? You have your hands raised?
Basically, the present is relevant to people now.
The present is relevant to people now. Okay. No?
It's not about what you did in the past or what you did in the future. You have to just make sure you're doing the right thing now.
Okay. Good. So, Hashem Melech is, like you're saying, you have to have an understanding of what's going on now. What's going on now? But that still doesn't change the fact that you should consider your past. You should consider your past. Why? Some people say, past is past. Past is the Yetzirah. What can I do about the past? Let the past be the past. This is the wrong attitude. Why? You need to know where you've been in order to know where you're going. You need to learn from your past. Learn what worked, learn what failed, for you individually, for your family, and for your people. We have a Torah that tells us things that happened in the past, because we need to learn from them in order to know how we can change our present. Why? Because the only thing that is in our hands is the present, like you said. But if you don't look at the past, then the present will never change and your future is a disaster waiting to happen. Now, some people don't really think too much about it. They just do whatever it is. Whatever goes, goes. They don't think about what happened in the past, what failed in the past, what worked in the past. They don't really want to learn from their parents and how they failed and how they succeeded. They don't want to learn from their teachers and how they failed and how they succeeded. They don't want to learn from the Torah and how they failed and how they succeeded. They don't want to learn from the past. They want to do everything based on their own dime, based on their own blood. Problem is, that's a very stupid person. Because you could learn a very painful lesson for free by simply looking at how it worked for somebody else. But sometimes people will say, okay, the past is the past, but maybe for me it's going to work. I'll just worry about it when I get there. What is that like? One time a guy comes back from the king worried. Sees his friend, say, what happened? He goes, I don't know, the king lost his mind. He goes, well, what happened? What did he say to you? I don't know, he said to me that if I don't train this dog to pray, he's going to kill me and my whole family. He goes, okay, good, so did you bring the dog? He goes, no, what do you mean bring the dog? I don't know, I can't train this dog to pray. So his friend says, okay, don't worry, I'll take care of it. Friend goes to the king, comes back with the dog. He goes, what'd you do? How'd you do it? He said, he gave me a deal. What's the deal? Train the dog to pray. He goes, you're going to train the dog to pray? Good. Listen, I told the king, what do you want? He says, I want my dog to learn how to pray. I want my dog to learn how to pray. I said, no problem. No problem. 2 things. Number 1, I need 15 gold coins. For each year, I'm going to train him. King says, no problem. I'll pay you 2 years in advance. Here you go. He goes, second requirement. It's going to take me 15 years to teach him how to really pray. Teach him how to really pray. It's going to take me 15 years. King says, no problem. You got it. Money is going to be given to you right now. I'm looking forward to seeing my dog pray. So his friend says to him, he goes, so what are you going to do? Once 15 years passes, and the dog doesn't know how to pray. He says, listen, in 15 years, either the king's going to die, the dog's going to die, or I'm going to die. Somebody has to die in 15 years. So I'll worry about it when I get there. Most likely the dog's going to die in 15 years. But even if he doesn't die, maybe the king's going to die. And if he doesn't die, then I have to die. I'll worry about it when I get there. Some people act like this. Some people make very big moves today thinking that they're not going to have to worry about it and I'll deal with it once I get down the road. And that's why it says Hashem Melech as the first one. If you start dealing with today as if it's the most important by looking at the past and making sure you make the corrections of whatever correction you need to make first, then your future will look much better than it. Then your future will be something to look forward to. But if you simply ignore the past, then there's nothing to look forward as far as the future. Now,
If you're always thinking about the past, though.
if you're harping on the past, then you're living in the past, then you're not living in the future. You're not living in the present, and you won't have a future either. You know, in the business world, a lot of kids will come to me and they say, listen, you know, last month I made a deal for $100,000. You know, last month I made a deal for $500,000. You know, 6 months ago I made a deal for $1 million. You know, 3 years ago I made a deal for $2 million. You know what my response was every single time they told me that? Who cares what you did yesterday? It paid the bills yesterday. I need to pay the bills today. Today I need to pay the bills. The only thing that's going to pay the bills today is a deal today. Not a deal 6 months ago. 6 months ago is not going to pay today's bills. I already spent that money. I need money today. Go make another $1 million deal. Or go find another job. Why? That's all that matters. That's all that matters in the world. If you're going to constantly think about what I did when I was 7 years old, and what I did when I was 18 years old, and what I did when I was 28 years old, and what I did when I was 38 years old, you're going to constantly live in the past, and guess what? Not only is your present going to be some disaster, but your future is nothing to look forward to. Why? You're not going to be able to pay the bills. You're not going to be able to pay the bills. You have to understand, the past is only something to use for learning purposes. Meaning, look at the past, take the pieces that are valuable, and use it for the present in order to change the future. But if you're going to harp on the past, you're going to count the money, you're going to count the chickens that you already ate, guess what? You're going to die starving. You're going to die starving. Why? Because you ate them already. They left your body. They became part of the soil. They don't matter today. Today is what matters. I could use some strategies from the past to help my today in order to improve my tomorrow. But as far as banking on my yesterday, how is that ever going to help anybody? But unfortunately, the Satan constantly tries to convince us to look at our past and live at our past and think that if we could have done something, if I would have done something different, then this would have been different and that would have been different. This is like the lotto joke. You guys ever heard the lotto joke? A guy and his father go to the lotto store or the deli and they buy a lotto ticket. Jackpot, I don't know, $1 zillion. And they go back in the car and the kid says to the father, he's like, Dad, what are you going to do if we win the jackpot? He said, first thing, I'm buying a Ferrari. I've always wanted a Ferrari. You know, one of the fancy schmancy cars, $500,000. It's like, all right, Dad, well, listen. I think it's a good purchase. Just make sure you buy this specific model, but I get next. I drive next. He goes, hey, we'll see. Well, at least I'm going to sit in the front with you. He goes, no, you're not going to sit in the front with me. Your mom's going to sit next to in the front with me. I'm not going to let you sit in the front with me. Your mom, my mom, I'm married to her for 20 years. She has to sit in the front. He goes, no, Abba, come on. It's not possible. How? I went and bought the ticket with you. I bought the ticket with you. How is she going to sit in the front if I bought the ticket with you? And they go back and forth and they start arguing. He goes, son, you know what? Get out of the car. Get out of the car. They got into some imagination as if they won the car. So the father says, get out of the car. Rabotai, the Satan tries to convince us to live in the past, to live in an imagination, as if we would have done something, then something would have changed, and something would have changed. And this is the Satan fooling us into spending our time and our efforts on things that we cannot change. You cannot change the past. Therefore, the past is only there for you to learn from. Take the few pieces that are valuable and relevant to you today in order to change today, in order to influence tomorrow, and make tomorrow better than yesterday. But if you harp on the past and count all of the mistakes you make and start crying about all of them without learning from them, but just commiserating and telling everybody all the mistakes that you made in the last 20, 30 years, then guess what? You're never going to be able to move forward. You're going to be manic depressant, and your future is going to be even worse than your past. Now,